Why? Why not just work? Oh, it looks like something's streaming. Um, all right. YouTube is working now. So we will have a recording. It's not the stream that I set up initially, but okay. So apologies for the janky start. Thanks for being patient and sticking around. So today I'm going to demo and talk about thumbnails. Before I get into that, though, let me let me start by explaining a bit about what these classes are, who I am, why we do these kind of things. So I teach drawing fundamentals both at an animation school and online. And these free classes are the closest thing I can do to IRL classes for free. Like I make YouTube videos, I have a book, but the on these classes are interactive, whereas with a YouTube video, it's just like one way communication, which is not ideal for learning. Like in a real class, it's a back and forth. I get to find out what your guys' problems are, what your thoughts are, and your questions are, and tailor my message to that so that you get the most out of it. Um, and because I want this to be as interactive as possible, I want you guys um, to be part of this as well. So, in a regular classroom setting, I have social cues where I can see if it's time for me to stop talking and let other people talk. Online, I don't have those. So, if you have something to say, just go ahead and talk into the mic and feel free to interrupt me. If you're on YouTube or you don't want to talk into the mic on Discord, you can type in the chat and I will read it out and respond to it there. So yeah, let's talk about thumbnails. So let me define my terms that thumbnails are just small versions of a drawing that you do quickly. And yeah, this should be like 2 inches or so. The size doesn't really matter, but small, so you can't get stuck in details. So why do you do thumbnails? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I use thumbnails. Is it plans out the big compositional decisions to test stuff out. If it works small, it will work big. Yeah, that too. Um, because when you see a an artwork, when you see a composition, you don't notice all of the details right away. You notice like the whole of the composition. So that is one of the most important things about a piece of art is the overall composition. And if you don't figure that out ahead of time, it might not turn out the way you want. Like if you start with, say, you start with a character and then you draw the background around that character, um, you might make the composition not flow as well. I'm not saying that can't work. I've done that and I've had that work too. But in general, having thumbnails helps you plan the overall flow better than trying to do it as you go. Especially if it's something more complicated than just one character. Like if it's a whole scene, then you're telling a story. It's going to be hard to figure that out as you go with all of the details. So the thumbnail lets you plan it out and see what's working ahead of time. Um, it's a lot faster. So you can do a fast version and find out if it works before you spend a bunch of time doing a big version and notice maybe that would have looked better if I put that over there, or my eye's not going where I want it to. Why not? So you plan that stuff out ahead of time, and then that gives you a framework to work into as you're going. It also, like when you're working full size, it's tempting to do all the details and stuff, but those details might not fit with what you're going for, or they might work better if they were fit into a larger framework that you hadn't thought of yet, which is reason why thumbnails are useful. But overall, it's to plan composition. So I'm going to start with some abstract compositions, just playing with shapes, because that's a good way to practice composition. And we talked about this last week, and then there was one a couple months ago about composition in general, about emphasis and drawing the viewer's eye. So I'm going to be relying on that, but these ones, these are just to play with composition. Um, and while I'm doing this, I'm open to any suggestions, or I should say, thoughts on composition in general. So I'm gonna talk through them, but you can feel free to interrupt me. So I want my focal point to be here. So I'll create a radial pattern going to it. And then work kind of like a broken spiral down to that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. I will usually do lines because the kind of art that I like to make is more line driven. So I want to think about that as I'm figuring out the composition. But I get what you mean about using large shapes of value. Like I like that as well. Um, for the challenge this week, the doing the 30 or 31, can't remember, compositions. Um, I've done some where I start with the shapes of color and some where I start with lines. I'm not going to say that one is right and one is wrong. It depends on what you want the final piece to look like. Um, so another important thing about thumbnails is that you get a chance to refine the composition. So I like what I have, but I want to experiment. Right now, the spacing between these is all the same, which I don't love. So I'm going to experiment by making them like thicker and thinner. And I think that's more interesting. And that gives me more room for the spiral. And I'm also trying to push the contrast more, so I have it be brighter at the focal point, but also darker as I get closer to it. And now I'll go with that spiral again, and I'm going to have it get thicker as it gets closer. So that was kind of fun, and I like it better than the first one. And another one of these guys. So that's the kind of thing that you can do by doing multiple thumbnails. Normally, I spend a long time doing thumbnails when I'm working on a piece. If I'm going to spend a long time on a piece, I'm going to spend a long time on its thumbnails. But this one is just abstract, just to play around. So I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I'm going to do a different one. And this one I'll do just blocking in the big shapes of value to demonstrate how that could work as well. Um, yeah, that's a good question. Personally, I'm usually doing them before, but sometimes as I'm doing them, I have different ideas for what I wanted to put in the art. Like I have a general idea, and then as I do thumbnails, I realize that there's better things I could do. But in general, yeah, I like to have an idea of what I'm trying to do before I start. But I've found myself changing that recently because it can be tough when you don't have a strong idea. No, I want the other. Yeah, yeah, that's a really tough one. And I think it really depends on the artist and how they work and what their ideas are like. Because I find it hard to come up with a composition when I don't already have an idea. Like I don't know what to focus on, and that's why I'm doing this weird abstraction right now. But I did come up with an idea to do something that's a little more plot driven in this demo. I just want to kind of think about the abstract first before I get into that, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I like this one. I like how this is turning out. I could try um, making this. All right, I still want to have that brightness behind it. I thought that was working really well. Make this darker. And maybe not that angled, but more angled, even if this is less realistic. And then I'm going to have less of that swirly stuff on the bottom. So what do you guys think? Top one or bottom one? Which, because I liked the top one, but then I pushed it and I might like this one better. This is the kind of thing that happens when you explore. Top? Mm. Well, we don't have to decide because I'm not going any further with it. So I'm getting mixed top bottom. And yeah, like if I was going to do this, I would keep experimenting. Actually, why don't I do one more because I think this is good to illustrate the point. So there are things I like about the top and things I like about the bottom. What happens if I split the difference? So for this, like I like the diagonal. I like the bigger highlight. I like giving it more space, but I kind of like the distance better. And another thing, because this is abstract, it gives me a lot of freedom because the top one looks like a building that's square, which most of them are, whereas the bottom one is um, like trapezoidal. So I'm gonna kind of split the difference. I'm gonna keep it smaller. Even that's too big. And I'm gonna have it get wider on the bottom, but less. And I'm gonna have it narrower. I liked that gradient effect, so I'll bring that back as well. You don't use the lasso tool to make selections and create shapes more quickly and cleanly? No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I like, because I learned to do this stuff on pen and paper, I think more like that. But I could see how the lasso tool could be. And I do use it sometimes for shading stuff, but oh, that's way too dark. So yeah, actually, I think I like the third one the best of all of them. So yeah, like I think that's a testament to how experimenting can lead to a better composition. Is storyboarding the same concept as thumbnails? No. Um, Storyboarding, at least for like film and for animation, is more about film language. So you're thinking of it's there's a thumbnailing element to it because you are figuring out the composition of shots, but it's more about the like the shot choices, the cutting, um, the acting, especially if it's animation, that sort of thing. Like the way you tell a story with a film. Um, Composition's important, but it's they're also usually more detailed. The thumbnail or the storyboard panels. Okay, I've never drawn traditionally, so lasso tool is basically my best friend. Yeah, it is pretty good. I'm not hating on the lasso tool. Um, okay, so I'm gonna do something a little more story driven now because it's fun and it's easy to just to throw stuff around that's abstract, but there's more of a challenge to doing something where you actually have to tell a story. It boxes you in a bit more, which is good because it narrows the possibility, but it's also becomes a bit more of a challenge. So let me find some drawings, um, the kind of stuff. So this is a piece I did a while ago. Um, I just want to show you the subject matter, like this Triceratops tank. So I want to do a a battle scene. So we have the Triceratops tank versus these guys. Um, just thank you. Yeah, that is very much what I'm going for. Uh, so now I'm going to try to do a scene with that. And I'm still going to start with abstract shapes before I start getting into any details. So hopefully this is reading clearly on the screen. So I have some overall idea of where I want the shapes to go, and now I can try to make the details work with that. But I'm not worried about the details as much as the big shapes. And so we got the smaller raptor guys off to the side. And they're shooting, draw more attention. Maybe in the foreground I can have a guy getting hit. I wonder if that's gonna draw too much attention though. I know faces are details, but it's still important to think about them, especially if they're going to be like kind of big, because they do have visual weight, and I don't I don't like it. I don't like the face right near the edge of the screen like that, or edge of the frame. Maybe I can keep the same concept, but have them be a lot smaller. But this is why it's a first thumbnail, because I don't think this is very good. I don't like all this blank space here. Started digitally from the get-go, but never liked the lasso too much. It makes the edges too sharp. Yeah, I get that too. Yeah, I get that too. There is kind of like a unnaturalness to having like super hard edges digitally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna push. I'm gonna make the tank bigger. So for something like this, I kind of have a general idea of what I want the feeling to be, and I'm riffing my composition off of that. The head and the horn. Forgot the other horns last time. Guess it's not too late. So if I'm going for that radial pattern, and have this guy here. I think he's getting a lot of visual weight though. like zooming out, looking at it really small helps too. Um, Definitely open to other thoughts on this. I don't know if I like that one. Like, I kind of like the having more open space instead of just having it all about the Triceratops. If I make it a lot smaller, because that's part of that Mad Max feel too, right? They're not, um, they're like off in this wasteland. I want to have space for. Ooh, that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah, so lower the horizon line to the third. Hmm. I do like this better. Zoom out again. This guy needs to be smaller. I'm have a lot of empty space in the top third though. So what if I just get rid of it? What if I just oh, um, no, that's not what I wanted to do. How do I get rid of that? Um, I wasn't planning on that. I think that changes things quite a bit. Um, yeah, just cutting it off a little bit, but then it doesn't feel as much like a low angle. I don't know. I still like it better than having a bunch of space up there. Are you trying to make the character on the horned dinosaur the focal point, or both dinosaurs? Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm probably going to go for the head if there is like the Triceratops head if there is one focal point. But it doesn't have to be. Okay, I'm gonna. Sometimes I think it's very good to shake things up instead of just doing the same thumbnail over and over again. There, there's still work to be had on this, but if I try something different, that will lead to other ideas that it might not come up with. Um, so I'm going to try putting the Triceratops actually in the front of the composition. That's too big. And having a very high point of view. I like it. It's a very different feel. Like if this, I'm not really thinking about the rest of a story here. Like if this was a panel in a storyboard or in a graphic novel. Well, if it was a graphic novel, I'd have to consider the whole page. But um, this is a very different storytelling beat. This is, we feel like we're this guy, and things are going well. Like we're picking off these guys chasing him. Where this one feels more even. Um, but yeah, I still haven't found anything that I'm like, yes, this is it. That one's the closest, but yeah, yeah, that's a cool idea. Um, yeah, this one it's much more dynamic. I agree. The unusual perspective um, does make it more. So yeah, let's have the head doing something. See where that goes. So I am starting with the detail here, which is not often the best idea, but it's for a reason, and I can always do a more abstract version afterwards. So dude is getting absolutely tossed by this other dinosaur. But I still am thinking about, like, there's a visual rhythm here that I like. So I started with the detail, but I'm still thinking in those big shapes. I'm kind of running out of room here. and this guy down here like, oh shit. Yeah, this is a fun one. I like it. I don't love this area. So there's this space and this space, and they're too even. And actually, I'm going to do this one a little differently. Sometimes I actually don't start with the frame. I start with the action and then add the frame over it. It de- mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you need the aspect ratio to be the same, like it's really important, but if it's not, you don't want to get boxed into that too early. I would play with the aspect ratio for sure. Um, okay, so body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sure that have that really strong line going right to have this dude tilted to the side too. Like there's so much force, it's knocking him over. And the other one, I think, I like. I kind of like the movement, the moment of him having already been tossed, but it kind of feels like a force punch. Let's get some blood in this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that I need the face of the raptor getting hit. Yeah, I do too. Um, I do wonder. So this is such a different shape than the original one. Like the other one was more of a radial thing. This one's much more of like a circle. Um, Run out of space here. So now I'm going to go back to having a frame. And I'm going to go back to thinking in abstract shapes here. Now that I have my subject. Gotta go. Thanks for the lesson. Thanks for stopping by. to put it right in the middle. I want to do more with that other side of the frame. Probably do need to wrap this lesson though. Still haven't come to a. Yeah, you can get really lost in thumbnailing, as you can see, but I think it's worth it. So hopefully, this demo. Do you only use lines, or do you prefer using shapes like the abstract thumbnails? It depends on what I'm going for, like what I want the final product to be. So for something like this, would be more line based. And once I got one that I liked, then I would start working on value. Um, so I'm trying to keep this one abstract, and then I have smaller details. They don't feel connected though. It feels like there's a composition here and a composition here. This guy getting really tossed. And then this one is under it. Yeah, I kind of like this. Like there's like a 1, 2, 3 going on. So I really do have to wrap. Let me add some value to this one, because that would be the next step, either value or color. Actually, the hell, let's do color. No, I don't have time. Let's do value. Okay, so I do need to wrap. Thanks everybody for coming out. We do these every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is -8 UTC. If you're interested, so we have a really great Discord group. If you're watching on YouTube, probably nobody is because I did such a poor job setting it up. But if you want to be more involved and be on the mic in one of these, you can join the Discord. I have lots of free learning materials as well. Besides this class, I have a free book, which I think is the best thing of my free material that you can download. There should be a link in the description on YouTube. If you're on the Discord, it's in the resources channel. There's a free course for those who want to learn the basics of observational drawing. It's also designed to work with the book. So you learn in the course goes through the first chapter, or like an abridged version of the first chapter, to help to like guide you how you study using the book. So you see it work in the book, and then you can apply that same structure to the later chapters. And if you really want the best thing I have to offer, the premium service is mentorship, where we would meet one-on-one, and I'll give you feedback on your work and give you specific things to work on, specific exercises, and then give you feedback on those, keep you consistently learning. The students who take those, they do really well. I learned to draw pretty quick, um, or definitely quicker than they did on their own. So I don't want to overpromise, but it definitely works. Just whether how fast it works is the question. Um, yeah, that's all my stuff to shill. Thanks everybody for coming out, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.